Who needs Eddie dolls and Slash dolls when you can use Easter Bunny? Can you guys hear me? Oh, we can't hear the Rock Professor. I'm assuming everyone can hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, fantastic. So the Rock Professor is in limbo. TikTok, it's time to rock. While he gets his microphone going, we'll continue the show. But TikTok, it's time to rock. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Sunday show, and we have the pleasure and the honor once again of having Jazz Thunder 50, also known as Jim, all the way from Scotland.
Aberdeen, Scotland, yeah.
Good to see you. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Happy Easter. I'm looking forward to talking about this album. We'll wait for the Rock Professor to come back in and he can introduce the album. Hopefully he's got a microphone going.
That's better. I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
It's just a typical StreamYard's glitch. When you get there, I don't want to hear them anyway.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting things that you've got to work through. But look, guys, thank you very much for getting up early Easter Sunday where you guys are. If you guys feel peckish, grab an Easter egg. Easter eggs are legal on this show. Chocolate bunnies, they're all legal.
Chocolate bunnies.
We've got some rap bags in the chat. The Rock Professor's going to do a bit of a shout out soon, but we had a show yesterday, a little bit of a sort of impromptu show. If you guys aren't aware of it, we've got Jim because Brad is scarpered. He's left us. He's ditched us
again.
He's cashed us in for a holiday. A well-deserved one, Simon.
Always well-deserved. Holidays are always a good idea.
Fantastic.
I've just had a week off. Didn't do much, but I'm all for holidays. I think they're a sanity saver in many ways.
Oh, awesome. I didn't know that you were on holiday, but happy past holidays. But look, it's good to see you guys. We want to do a couple of shout outs before we start the show properly. We want to do a shout out to Warren, a good friend of the channel, guys. Yeah. You guys all know who Warren is. We haven't heard from Warren for a while. So, brother, we do send out our best wishes and prayers for you and hope to hear from you soon. We also want to do a shout out to everybody in the chat. We're going to talk about why we want to do this shout out to everybody in the chat very soon, because I know the Rock Professor's got a couple of things that he wants to say. I enjoyed the show that we did yesterday, the impromptu show that we did yesterday with Brad. It was something that we only planned a couple of days ago, Rock Professor, because he wanted to do something in recognition of Gary Moore, who's a huge influence on him. And obviously, this show will always take every opportunity it will to talk about these British electric blues guys. Yeah,
absolutely. And that was good. It was really good. I watched it at my leisure yesterday, having awakened long after it had finished. Actually, that's not true. I was in the supermarket doing shopping. Easter shopping, awesome. Avoiding the crowds was a thrill.
Yeah.
I tuned in and I really enjoyed the show. Actually, I think it covered so much ground. Actually, it was really good.
Oh, thank you, guys. Thank you. And if you guys haven't worked it out, Brad clearly is a Gary Moore nut, and we look forward to doing more. You know, there's a whole heap of albums that Gary Moore has done, Simon. You know, some of that blues, you know, it's, you know, there's a wealth of stuff there for us to do shows on.
And he was in a band called Colosseum. I don't know if that was mentioned.
Colosseum.
No, we didn't. We didn't mention that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
God, yes, Colosseum.
Goes back.
Them. Yeah. They go back. John Heisman.
Yeah.
I can't remember who else is in it, but
Rock Professor.
Well, I have.
Oh yeah, you got a shout out.
Well, I was going to do a shout out to we lost an Australian. Well, because he's an Australian musician, I figured that the Antipodes, Chris Bailey from the Saints. I don't know if people remember him, but I remember I'm Stranded. I've got I'm Stranded in a box of singles over there somewhere.
Yep.
So shout out to him, and a musician, Australian musician, top man.
Yeah.
Who died this week? So so I'm certainly influential. Lots of places. I know Nick Cave certainly described him as being very influential. So I wrote a good piece in the New Original Express about him. So I thought I'd give him a shout out. It's an Antipodean connection. So that was my shout out this week. And thanks to everyone who subscribed to get us over the magic line of 1,000 subscribers. We're thrilled, aren't we? Thrilled to be in the big league.
Well, we are, and there's a couple of reasons why, guys. Obviously, it gives us an opportunity, like we've always said, to be attractive. Besides the fact that we are attractive-looking guys, but our channel, our channel will be attractive to asking, artists and authors and reviewers, Simon on, and other YouTube channels to come on and talk about what they do, because that's certainly the goal of the channel. But there's a couple of things though that I want to point out to people who might be thinking about doing their own YouTube channel. Simon and I have been doing this together since Carl left. What, for 4 years, Simon? 3 years? 3 years?
Is it that long? How long have you and I been doing this? What, we getting on for 5 years? We've been doing this. Terrifying.
Yeah. And the first 2 years that Simon and I were doing this, and you guys can go back and have a look at some of these videos if you want, but we never asked for subs. We just jumped on and we just talked and we said, see you guys later, and and it wasn't until I spoke to a couple of other people and they said, man, ask for subs. If you want to grow your channel, you got to, and it's like, oh, okay, all right, okay, all right. So we had to get through that process, didn't we, Simon? I was saying, oh, okay, can you please subscribe to our channel? Yeah, because it sounded a little bit funny back then to do that, because that's not necessarily what Simon and I wanted the channel to do. But look, we did it, and we took advantage of a lot of our social contacts. But there's a lot of people that are going to be watching the replay of this who probably won't be watching us live, Simon, who I know that said that they will watch us. I want to do a special shout out to the people that got us over the line for that 1,000, because you know who you guys are. Thank you for that. And just one little bit of interesting information too that Simon and I were looking at earlier. When you get into the 1,000 club, something happens to the algorithms. We've picked up 25 more subscribers, Simon, in the last 24 hours. So,
amazing, yeah. God, yeah, 1.16. Blimey,
yeah.
More than, yeah. Wow.
So something certainly happens to what YouTube does. But I've got to do a special shout out though, because the big boost came for our channel when we interviewed Bob and Jeff. And when that video went on, a couple of those Fleetwood Mac groups, we picked up a few subs. But also we want to do a shout out to all the people on the Led Zeppelin groups. And you know who those Led Zeppelin Facebook groups are. I promise I will do some tickets for those groups and advertise them, because a lot of people from the Led Zeppelin group said, hey, we'll help you guys. Yeah, it's only a sub.
It's only a sub. I'd like to say that a special thank you to my middle daughter Saskia, who was the 1,000th subscriber.
Thank you, Saskia.
And only a small amount of torture was involved in the making of this. She said that this will make you laugh. She said, "What do I want to subscribe? You're just a bunch of old blokes talking about guitars. I said, we are not a bunch of old blokes talking about guitars. We take an album, we rank the tracks every week. And she went, oh, that sounds a bit more interesting. I'll subscribe. This is from a nearly 18-year-old. What can you expect?
Yeah. But Derek's right. Yeah, back in the Fender Guru days. Yeah.
Halcyon days.
Back when we didn't know what we were doing. Back when it was Google Hangouts, but and we had some frustrating times getting on live. But we'll talk about that all next week. So next week we're gonna spend a couple of hours and we're gonna reminisce and we're gonna talk about some of the channel things that we've done over the last few years. Pass on a few bits of gold that people might think are funny or entertaining, Simon. And we're going to throw out an invite. So if anybody that's in the chat that wants to jump on and hang out with us for 5 or 10 minutes, please do. And we'll do a Van Halen t-shirt draw next week too. So you have to be actually in the chat to win that, Simon. So another incentive.
You do. You have to be here to get the t-shirt.
Who we got here watching us, hanging out with us, brother?
Let's have a look. So we've got Tim Thomas. Good morning, Tim. We've got Ellen V. Morning, Ellen. How you doing? Hope you're good.
Hi, Ellen.
We've got Derek Clacton. Good morning, Derek. Happy Easter. Gret Zeppelin. We've got Arvin, of course. Good morning, Arvin. Hope you're good. Nice to see you. Keith Campbell. Morning, Keith. We've got anybody else who's commented? Paulie Walnuts. Good morning, Paulie. How you doing? We've got from Massachusetts in the USA. Helene O'Hara. Good morning, Helene. How are you? Nice to see you. Keith, Robert Ranford as well. Good morning, Robert. Hope you're good.
Look at this. We've got Teresa here too.
Teresa as well. Good morning, Teresa. How are you? Hope you're good. So hopefully I got everybody. Shout out if I didn't. But yeah, good morning. Thanks for joining.
I'm going to ask you to do something, mate. Can you come out and come back in because there's a crackle on your mic, Simon?
Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah. So while we wait for the Rock Professor, like I said, guys, we're lucky to have Jim come in. He's going to fill in the hot seat for Brad. We're going to be talking about a great album, Bad Company's Straight Shooter. I look forward to hearing people's opinions and ranks on that, Jim. As usual, guys, if you want to participate in the ranking, throw them in the chat. Hopefully the Rock Professor is not crackling.
Am I sizzling and crackling?
No, you're not sizzling. You're not sizzling. That's good. You're smoldering. The sizzle comes later.
That's not smoldering, is
it? Yeah, the sizzle comes later. All right.
Oh dear.
What are we doing?
Well, we are doing. We are doing. Yes, what are we doing? What? Don't do that. Yes. We are doing. This week's album is Straight Shooter by Bad Company. An album that I remember when it came out, and I haven't listened to it for a long time, so it was really nice to go back. And clearly, I know some of the songs on it, but some of them not nearly so much, which was great. Straight Shooter, amazingly, recorded 3 months after their first album. I mean, this is not a bad messing about, is it? You just straight back into the studio 3 months later, knock off another 10 songs.
I want to jump in. Those English guys had a strong work ethic back then. You know, this idea of just doing an album, a tour, getting back into the studio, this thing of going on holiday and TikToking and Instagramming and all that and playing golf and, you know, Grand Ferrariing and all.
This is what you're doing when you don't have the internet. When the internet doesn't exist and you've only got 3 channels on the television, what you do is you go, oh, well, let's go make another album then. Plenty of time to write songs.
It must have been on the back of their first tour. Then they would be kind of road ready and playing live. So, but that's a great point. Actually, the people used to turn out albums. I mean, the Beatles used to put out albums every six months, wasn't it? Really.
Yep.
And nowadays, sometimes it can be 2 or 3 years between artists putting out a record or a CD or whatever. Yeah.
Well, when we're talking about Get Back, they went in the studio January to start recording, and the White Album was at #1 while they were doing it, and only been released in September, October, in the autumn of that year, and then it was straight back in the studio. Get on with the next one. Yeah. So I think you're right. There was a very strong work ethic then, to get on and do so. I guess that they also had a bit of a stockpile of songs as well to go to, which probably helps a bit. And when you're on that kind of creative streak, the other members of the band will chip in. So we've got a couple of songs by Simon Kirke on here as well. So, which but never underestimate the work ethic. In those days, you got on with it, and I think clearly they were on Swan Song, which is Led Zeppelin, and managed by Peter Grant. So, you're applying the same thing as Led Zeppelin did, didn't they? Made an album, released it, went on tour, whilst on tour, recorded the second album all over the place, and released it the same year. I think the English group Fairport Convention, they released 3 albums in a year, 1 year. I think 1968, something like that. I think their first 3 albums were all released in 1 year, which is astonishing. You're right, Derek. They didn't have 48 tracks to endlessly overdub. Again, we're in the. They probably had 16 by now. Yeah, 16 at least, maybe 32 tracks by then. But I think you can tell that they've done some work on this album in a slightly different way to the first one. But it is an interesting point that you're still in the era of the pre-click track, build the track up era, where you went in as a band, counted it off, and played. And I think that's a really one of those important things that they did in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. The basic tracks are all laid down live. Drummer, count them off, and then you overdubbed over the top of the basic tracks. But I think it's a good point that absolutely, it's that playing live in the studio gives it a vibe, gives them a, oh dear, hang on a sec.
Mine too, Keith. Was my introduction to Bad Company too.
Yeah.
Whereas I was around at the beginning. Because Can't Get was a really big hit, and the first album really took off them in a big way. It was played at all the discos that we used to go to. Discos, listen to me. It's done with 3. Yeah. But so as we know, as Keith has alluded to, Bad Company, two half of 3. Simon Kirke and Paul Rodgers, with Mick Rouse from Mott the Hoople, and Boz Burrell was in King Crimson. I think before that. But this second album recorded at Clearwell Castle in Gloucestershire, which is in the 70s, was quite a famous recording studio. A bit like Headley Grange kind of thing, kind of set up. But they had a recording studio in the Forest of Dean here. A lot of bands used to go and play there. Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, they all recorded there. It's not a recording studio now, but it was a recording studio. I'm impressed by that they went in and started it off. But clearly they had a cache of songs that. So I think it's kind of overlooked, this album, in many ways. It's kind of overshadowed by the first one. But actually, I think it has has lots to recommend it, and I think it has a greater variety of songs. It has certainly more production on it. There's certainly more things going on it, and I think they clearly, moved it on from the first. The first album is kind of straight, isn't it? Straight kind of 4-piece rock and roll play. Paul Rodgers doing the keyboard stuff, but pretty much. Whereas this has, as we get into it, this has a bit more about it, I think, in many ways than the first album. So yeah. So shall we start? Anybody else want to say anything about it before I?
Yeah, just could I say something, Simon? I think the antecedents of the band there are quite interesting, aren't they? I think obviously Free was a big band, and obviously weren't going to continue because of Paul Kossoff's kind of health, really, around kind of substance misuse, and he'd become kind of, I guess, unreliable for the guitar player, and they kind of broke up, and then they got back together again, finished with Heartbreaker, which was just a great record, some fantastic songs, and clearly desired to go on. And I think Mick Ralphs in Mott the Hoople was probably writing songs, but couldn't get them on the albums because Ian Hunter was such a prolific writer. So I think he had accumulated quite a number of songs that were ready to go and record. So Paul Rodgers had heard those and thought, I can sing these, and it just seemed to be the right fit for Mick Ralph, certainly, to come into. And I remember when they started thinking it's going to be like a poor man's Free, it's not going to be as good. But I mean, I was pretty impressed with Mick Ralph's guitar playing. It was pretty amazing. So that was just my comment just on those kind of, how these groups get together. You're never quite sure, but they certainly just took a lot of the elements of Free and took it into a kind of different place. So
definitely. Definitely. I didn't know anything about this band at all. It wasn't until I went to a friend's place called Marsh Murphy's, and he had this in a band that escaped, Cosmo's Garage. What's the name of that band? Someone will know. The name of the band. Anyway, again, that magic age period between 14, 15, 16, and one thing that struck me was the songs. A couple of the songs, especially on side one, which we'll talk about obviously when we rank them.
Cosmo's Factory, Creedence Clearwater
Cosmo's Factory. That's right, CCR. and I remember just loving these songs, and eventually they became great songs on classic radio, because back in the 80s there was no such thing as classic radio, or classic rock radio. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what people think about a couple of the great songs anyway that are on this album. But I didn't know anything about this band, Jim, at all until this album. And this is the album that I went, oh, okay, and then went back and then discovered Free. So this album got me into Free, and then obviously everything else that Free did. I've got some photos after we've done side one, Simon. We'll flick the photos up and we'll go through the photos.
Good.
But I'm glad that we're doing this album, and we're going to talk about the guitar player, because I think he's an unsung hero of that British blues rock movement. He doesn't get a lot of praise, and this is our contribution to Mick and what he's done.
For sure. I know that there is a one Bad Company track. Mott the Hoople had already done it. I think it was something from the first time. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Was it Rock
so
Steady?
I think you're right. I think he couldn't.
Yeah.
Was it Rock Steady, Jim? Was it? Yeah. Yes, that's right. I think it is. Yeah, I got it up here somewhere. I can't see it, so I'm not gonna jump up and get it. But I've got a
Thanks,
very good
Keith.
Mott the Hoople collection. Yes. Saving me. Thank you, Keith. Am I crackling again? Am I? Elaine says I'm crackling again.
Yeah, you are, mate. If you can pop out, and hopefully we can.
Maybe the mic.
Is that crackling?
No, that's not crackling.
It's
crackling.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I said, Jim, one of the great things about rock and roll albums is that every now and again you get one that's a gateway album that you can mine and go back to and go, okay, and pick aspects of the past that went into the ingredients, I suppose, that made this band. So. Were you out and about buying records when this album came?
Yeah, I remember the first one coming out, and I had I think I didn't get into free when they started. Obviously, I was too young, but I'd bought a couple of free albums before I heard Bad Company. So I'd got Fire and Water, and that had the big hit. And I'd also bought. I can't remember what the other one's called. I bought the Heartbreaker one that was one Free at Last. I think I'd got that. Yeah, yes. And I kind of liked those albums, and some years later I got their kind of first and second albums, and I liked Free, and I think a lot of the guys at school. I think probably how I got into Free was, I can't remember, but there was a good compilation they put out, called double album, kind of the story of Free or something, and
sure.
Still got that on vinyl, and just a great introduction to Paul Rodgers. I mean, I think Paul Rodgers is just an incredible kind of vocalist, pretty unique, quite a soul singer in a way, a soul singer in a rock band some way. He can do all that stuff, just quite a talent. So yeah, like I was around when the Bad Company album came out, and was very keen on it. So yeah, good stuff. Nice to see you back, Simon.
Are you crackling?
Let's see. Am I crackling?
No, you're better. All right. Should we kick it off?
Let's hope that did it. I changed headphones just in case.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that makes any difference.
Just one little thing though on Rodgers, and I don't want to give too much away, but I think he sounds so different on this album as a vocalist than some of the Free albums. Yeah. He just and I'd be interested in what you guys and probably people in the chat think too. Is that something that they did deliberately? Is this something that he thought of? Is this something that was a result of the production techniques? But yeah, we'll talk about them as we go through the songs, Rock Professor.
Yeah, it's funny that I'm just picking on what you said, that when they started, they were a bit of a super group, Bad Company.
Yeah.
They were seen when they started, and as a bit of a super group, clearly with Paul Rodgers, Mick Rouse, they were well known, and I think they were sort of, as I say, as a bit of a super group. And when they started, and these first two albums certainly cashed in on that reputation. I think they were very popular, and got on it quick.
Keith's been listening to rock and roll for a long time.
1072. Well done, Keith. Tell us. We must come on, Keith, and tell us about rock and roll in 1072. Just
1972.
Just 6 years after
the Battle of
Hastings. Yes. 6 years into the reign of William the Conqueror, rock and roll thrived in the UK.
But seriously speaking, though, bring a bit of seriousness back to the channel. He's been listening to rock and roll since he's 7. I don't know what the heck I was doing when I was 7, but it wasn't listening to rock and roll.
No. Shall I tell you what I was doing when I was 7? You want to be appalled. I had a friend called Paul Green who had an air gun and a leather jacket. And we used to take it in turns to wear the leather jacket and shoot at each other to see if it would hurt.
Yeah. You and I spoke about this back in the Fender Duke Guru days. Remember? And I told you I had an air rifle and I shot the paper girl when she was driving, when she was pedaling. Man, I got into trouble for that.
Well, quite rightly too. Yes, shooting people. At least what dare I say this, at least what I was doing was consensual. You had to put the leather jacket on and stand there. But could I say, don't do that, kids. Don't do that. Never have I heard anything more idiotic in my life as that. But well done for taking it one stage further and being your local neighbourhood assassin. Oh dear.
There goes our algorithms for the channel.
Yeah. I think it's all quite subtle. Oh dear. Yes, do they do humour on the algorithms? Nobody knows.
Yeah.
So yeah, yes, it's so shall we begin?
Sure.
Gentlemen of the jury. So the first track is Good Loving Gone Bad, which I think is classic Bad Company. Has all the elements. It's got a really good kind of boogie type riff to it, and swings along really nice, really good. I think Rogers sings really excellently on it. It's got, as I say, it's got a bit more production in it. He's got like a half-time pre-chorus, and then he's got power chords coming out of the chorus. Just plays, just the once, and then it goes back to the song. And and he's got the solo is a kind of, the first half is very kind of held notes thing, that sort of long held notes thing, and the second bit is like AC/DC, Chuck Berry kind of a straight ahead, kind of thing, which is really good, and then you get to the last chorus, and then you've got phase guitar under it, that big kind of phase guitar thing. So they've clearly thought about the production of this record, and then right at the end you've got that little country lick that he does, that little country bend that he does right at the end to end it. But a really really strong opener, I think, really classic. I don't know whether this was left over from the first album they didn't put on, or whether they had a plan for it, but really great opener, in that thing. And I love the swing of it. I think it's got a real bounce. I was playing it yesterday when I was going around the supermarket, and you get a spring in your stride and start bounce, start giving that kind of little bit of bounce, which I always think is a mark of a really great track. So it's a 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip, and a fantastic opener to the record. Jim.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah, straight out of the gate, great rock and roll song. I think you're right. It does have some swing, but has some swagger as well. Really,
swagger. Yes,
it's got the swag, and I remember. I might be misremembering this, but I've definitely. I think it did get into the lower end of the charts, and there was a clip of them playing live, and I think this was used. It might be on YouTube, in fact. Probably they were probably playing it on the first tour. If not, I don't know. Anyway, it was definitely a great rock and roll song. I really like it. I just like that straight ahead stuff, and I think you're right. It's embellished really nicely with the guitar parts. The singing is kind of flat out, really good rock and roll stuff. There's nothing to dislike about it. If you don't like this, you don't like rock and roll, do you? Really? So, I think I love it. It's 10 out of 10 for me. You couldn't possibly skip it. I don't know how you can skip a first track anyway. You end up scratching your records. But I love the song. Nothing much more to say than that. A 10 out of 10.
There'll be somebody out there, Jim, who's putting it on the second track first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a special technique. It was a special technique you had, to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Look, I can't add much more to what you guys have already said. It's got everything that a great rock and roll opening album track needs, doesn't it? It's got the percussion from the drums, bang, straight there, which is really, really important. And it's a key component that we've decided and we've realized, isn't it? That's really, really good. It's either buried or mushy, but certainly it's right in front in the mix, and I like that. Because I have to say, Simon, when I was listening to this album, I was listening to it with the British Electric Blues ears, you know, and you're looking forward and listening for things that probably I hadn't focused on for a long, long time. Jim, it's got the riff. It's got a great riff. Not like a wow, like Brown Sugar riff, you know, something identifiable, but it's got that riff. You got to have that power chords. You got to be able to have that because power chords is becoming the identifiable thing for rock bands. Then, you know, they had to do it. It was mandatory. It was, as the rock professor said, it was like a manifesto for bands. And I think this is a great song. It's a song that draws the line clearly in the sand. I love it. I love the fact that Ralph's is still playing on the legacy of the band. You know, he's playing a Les Paul through this entire album, and we'll put up some pics and we can talk about that. And because of that, I love that too, because you can hear that. You're getting that crunch, Simon, that we all love. Doesn't like using pedals. He's, you know, back then, like a lot of these English guys are just plugging straight in, mic'd, fantastic. You've got that warmth. Simon, it's never a skip. I'm going to Brad score. I've got a few Brad scores on this side. I have to Brad score this because it's just, I think it's got everything that we love about British blues-inspired rock and roll.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Hello, little bird.
Yes, absolutely, little bird. That's very well put. That's exactly what Mick Ralphs is about. I think and he never really got the credit as a guitar player. I don't think he was definitely not seen in the same, as he's like, he's one of those kind of, well, he's all right, solid guitar player, but I think he's better than that. I think he has a melodic sense that's all of his own, and kind of, when he does his solos and things, they have a melodic sense that is not like anybody else. Particularly, he has his own voice. So, and hats off for major chord power chords as well. Let's hear it, kids. Never mind your sevenths or your suspended ninths or whatever. Give it some. That's the thing. So, and a great opener as well. You can't ask for a better opener really than that. So the
it was released months before the album, though, wasn't it? The single of this.
It's a single, yeah. I think, yeah.
It was out way before the LP.
Yeah, they did, and I think yes, as a sort of signpost to it. And I think, Jim, you're right. In those days, they would have played some of these songs certainly live before they recorded them. I'm sure they did. Because that's how it was in those days. You could. You would end up on a bootleg, but it wouldn't be very good and not on YouTube.
No.
So the second track is "Feel Like Making Love," which is a slower song. Interestingly, slower song, and we used to play this in my old band, so I have particular affinity for this song. It was the second single. It became the second top 10 hit in the US and in the UK. So definitely, went in the charts, and and I think that's one of their things is they did make singles. Unlike Led Zeppelin, they made singles and they understood the power of the publicity of a single that went in the charts. Which is something different from their fellow swan song bandmates. But according to Paul Rodgers, the inspiration was somebody he met at the time. He traveled, he hitchhiked up to Rio Nido, camped out in the woods with some people he met. It was just, it was a wonderful experience to be young and free in America in the 60s. And several years after Rodgers wrote the song, he played it to Mick Ralphs, who came up with the chords for the chorus, and put the two things together and created a song. I think that's the feel of the song, he said. The verses are appealing to the ladies, probably more than the men, and then the riff comes in, which is all bloody macho. It's a big chorus, and it worked out really well. Just can't say better than that. So it has that very nice acoustic thing at the beginning, just descending thing. and the drum roll, just but quite a calm. The verses, as Mick Ralph just said, very calm, really nice harmony singing as well. Always like the harmony singing on it. When they do that on the love bit, on each of the lines, they do this harmony singing. So 3-part harmony, that's really cool. I've done that. I think it sounds great. That's the thing. I told you I had an affinity with this. It's and it's got that acoustic electric as well. If you've got 2 guitar players, it's really good to do. You can do an acoustic electric thing on it as well. So as I said, I love the harmony singing. I think the harmony singing is really good, just accentuating a word in each of the lines. And then it's got the driven guitars in the chorus, which give it a real punch. Really come in with a punch. Real. And we talk a lot on here about dynamics, and that's clearly a dynamic. You don't have massive amounts of tricks. So what you have is dynamics. Soft, acoustic, loud in the chorus, big bangy chorus. Really nice solo, dual guitars playing harmony lines. Again, I alluded to Mick Ralph's kind of melodic playing, and I think this is a really good example of his melodic play. He doesn't overplay. He just plays a really nice kind of melody bit to it. I think is really good. And at the end, under the singing, he does that kind of soaring solo guitar underneath it. That really, again, it's parts, isn't it? It's all about parts. He hasn't done it before, so he can do it at the end, and it's a new bit that comes in to keep your interest. I'm going to Brad score this because I've played it in bands, and it's one of my. It's 100 out of 10 for me, and clearly never a skip. But yeah, this is one of my favourite songs now. I've really enjoyed playing it over the years. Jim.
Thanks, Simon. Yeah, it's a ballad that rocks. I'm not going to be able to add terribly much more to what you've said there, because I think you've covered it pretty well there. I think interesting thing about a couple of the Bad Company songs that were singles were they got a second bite at the cherry because they were used in commercials many years later.
Were they?
And Can't Get Enough was used on I can't remember what the commercials were for, but they got a lift and they were hits again. So I think, I don't know, I couldn't give you the exact dates, but certainly Feel Like Making Love was re-released again and was a hit all over again. So I think, they've caught, more than one generation with these songs. So that would be my kind of observation on this. I think the guitar playing on this record is amazing all through, and no exception there. It's great. It's kind of built as well for moving out of the kind of theaters, bands into the kind of arenas, the bigger, the stadium where you can kind of carry these sort of things and you can reach. You need a certain size of sound, breadth of sound to be able to kind of communicate to kind of large scale audiences. And both these tracks, the kind of straight out rocker and the ballad, but with some with some rock elements to it too, is really, really good. So the final thing I'd probably say is just it's a great vocal performance by Paul Rodgers. Just one of the old time, just an outstanding singing, and he can hold an audience. I think he looked at people over the years that could kind of connect with an audience. Obviously, obvious ones like Mick Jagger, but less obvious ones like Muddy Waters, and how you can bring people in, and real talent to be able to do that. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for me. I'm not going to do any Brad scores. I just can't quite bring myself to do 10 out of 100 out of 10 or anything, but 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Andrew.
Oh, look, the song's a masterpiece. It's an example of a young guy with some lyrics meeting a guitar player who comes in there and adds his little bit. Rock and roll's full of these examples through history of that amalgamation, that chemistry, that dynamic that great songs have, from the two different personalities. And we certainly get it with this song. The acoustic run is just phenomenal, isn't it? It's brilliant. And then, as everyone said, we've got this vocal coming in, which is unlike anything I think that Rodgers has ever done. So, you know, he's grown himself as a vocalist. Clearly, loves the interplay with what this band is doing. As the Rock Professor said, 3 months after they did their first album, so they're riding high, enjoying the fact that they're a super group and in that status. That means something. That meant something back in the day for a lot of these guys, and it was something that they lived up to. Certainly, it was a badge of honor, and I think the pressure sort of something that they worked on and delivered, and it was something that they enjoyed, and it's coming through on this album. You know, 2 great songs on a second debut album is just phenomenal. I've got a Brad score this too. I think these two tracks are just phenomenal, worth the price of the album, and certainly Rock Professor, never a skip. Everyone's calling and describing rock ballads, you know, rock ballad, power ballad. Certainly one of the first in that category.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. Yes. Just look at the chat. Keith says template for Queen. Ironic. I think Queen are already going by then, Keith. But I know what you mean. There's a bit of that in there. Yeah, really interesting.
Helen's talking about the smoothness of the vocals, because as well as being strong, they are smooth. It's just real quality, real timbre in the voice, and great. Yeah.
Well, he is. You know, I think he's acknowledged he is one of the great. You know, one of those great blues rock singers. You know, blues rock soul singing voices. Absolutely, Paul Rodgers. You know, and you know, went on to prove it, but proved it in Free as well. You know, but it's a particular voice, isn't it? It's not quite the Robert Plant thing.
No.
You know, it's a bit more soul, bit more of soul and soul in it than Robert Plant. Oh yeah, but always. I mean, I remember, you know, from the early 70s, always a great vocalist. You know, always thought of as a great vocalist, and you know, and I think, you know, also we should say, you know, big shout out to the rhythm section. Simon Kirk is a great drummer. You know, solid. You know, knows when to play, knows what to do, and Boz Burrell's, you know, bass playing really complements it, holds it all together. Just giving them a shout out as it's a thing. So, track 3 is the first of 2 Simon Kirk songs. Interestingly, I didn't know. You know, I don't think Simon Kirk had any. I don't think he'd had anything in Free, as far as I'm aware. But so this is his first song on the album, "Weep No More." Again, a great. Look at that. Queen meets the Eagles, Robert. Well, that's certainly an amalgamation of different styles. Yes, not sure. I don't know if I spotted that, but the interesting part about this is that this is, you know, again, is a, you know, more of a divergence from the straight ahead rock thing that they'd done on the first album. So this has got strings on it, you know, and it starts off with the strings, that melodic guitar and the kind of dramatic cellos and stuff. You know, clearly they, and then the singing comes in with a piano, bass and drums. And then you've got an organ in, which is, I think Mick Ralphs plays the organ. I think Paul Rodgers plays the piano and Mick Ralphs plays the organ. Again, you know, you've got a completely different kind of sound to this, more, you know, and they're clearly expanding their musical palettes to include these things and not being afraid to do it. I think this has, the other thing this reminded me of, I don't know if you guys, it had elements of kind of Elton John in that period as well, you know, with the piano and the guitar as well, to kind of to balance it off. You know, really nice melodic playing from Mick Ralphs. I think he does them really well. They do things like, you know, the organ is louder in verse 2 on the first 2 lines, and then it's replaced by the guitar on the second 2 lines. You know, so they're clearly thinking about the arrangement of the song and keeping the interest going. Sorry, guys. early morning jest. The solo guitar under "Don't You Weep No More" is very melodic, and then you've got that middle 8 with the strings, and then the solo, which is really melodic but soaring. You know, is that very kind of Mick Ralph's kind of soaring guitar I associate with him certainly now I do. But again, verse back to the guitar and organ, and then you've got the coda with the piano, the strings, the bass, and the drums, and you've got a solo at the end, and a little half-time ending. The thing. This is an 8 out of 10. It's not quite in the same league as the first two, so it's an 8 out of 10 for me. But it's never a skip, and I think it's a really good song. And I think they, the production and the ideas in it are, keep it interesting all the way through. And it's under 4 minutes. What's to complain about? So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Jim.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's a good song. I think the concept of kind of drummers coming forward with songs in bands is quite interesting. My son directed me once to watch an episode of The Family Guy where they had the Beatles in it, and the cartoon Ringo approaches the cartoon John Lennon and Paul McCartney and says, with a bit of paper in his hand, saying, "John Paul, I've written a song." And John goes, "That's great, Ringo. That's fantastic. Look, we'll just put it up here on the fridge where everyone can see it, And I think that kind of grabs me, that bit around, yeah, lovely. But, we're not putting that on the record. But this actually, to be fair, doesn't fall into that category. I'm not so sure I would be so positive about his second contribution to the album, which comes on side 2. But I think I'd agree with you. It's a good ballad. They've obviously put some time and effort into it. He's got the interest and attention of his band members, the other band members, and they've made a good job of recording it. So I think I'd probably give it 7 out of 10, and I wouldn't skip it. I would quite comfortably listen to that following on from the first 2 tracks. So yeah, in fact, though, I think the side flows pretty well. Side 1, doesn't it? It's a really nice kind of collection of songs. That's it from me, Andrew.
Yeah, look, I agree with you guys. I'm not going to rank this as high as I would have for a couple of reasons. Well, mainly one reason. It starts off great. You can hear the guitar; it's fantastic, and certainly the swagger that the song has. I think it's enjoyable, but I think the orchestration, the strings, ruin the song. I think if they'd just left it as a song with the band with the guitar, because go and listen to the song and hear the guitar. The guitar is fantastic in the intro, and it just, and then it gets buried. I just and not for the better, because on this show we do talk about orchestration by bands, and they bring in the orchestration, and there are some good examples of them doing it well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we have discussed this. But I think Simon and Jim and people in the chat, I think this is one where it just doesn't quite work for me. So I'm happy to give it a 7 too. Love the swagger and the content of the song, but the strings just, doesn't do it for me.
It's interesting. When I was a kid, and when I was this age, I never liked strings at all. Strings are definitely not rock and roll. But have no place on a rock and roll album. So I think I've mellowed a bit since then, but I know what you mean. I think that there's a certain element of that. There is a lot of production on this song, and I think probably there's a lot of production on the song for a reason. Is that the song itself is not as strong as the first 2 by a distance, and in a sense, when we get to the next one, I think you're hiding the weaker song in between all the 3 really strong songs. And I think that's probably a good idea. It provides a contrast as well. So I think there's has a Jim, as you said, it has, it doesn't, it keeps the flow of the album. It keeps, it broadens it out. I mean, I think it's, it gives you the idea that they are going to do more production. So I think it's a signpost to things, that they're doing on this album as well. So I think that I feel kinder towards strings now than maybe I did when I was a teenager, when probably would have got a 4, bloody strings, get rid of them, we'll be fine. But no, I agree with you. I think that maybe there is a a song. It's that thing, isn't it, about a really great song you can play just on an acoustic guitar and it's still a great song.
All right,
not entirely
Keith,
certain.
thank you for hanging out with us.
Keith, yes, absolutely. Sleep well. It's fantastic.
Happy Easter,
Thanks
brother.
for jumping in. Take care. Yeah. So yes, I know what you mean about strings and stuff, but I think it's very well produced, very well organised, and they make the best of it, of what it is. But, anyway, so moving along to track 4, end of side 1. You know how keen I am on sides. So track 4 is a Shooting Star, and I think this tells the story of a young boy who grows up to be a rock star, but succumbs to the rock and roll lifestyle and dies of a drug overdose. According to Paul Rodgers, the song is a warning. He wrote it about the casualties of music business, people like Hendrix, Janis Joplin, but also clearly must have been affected by Paul Kossoff, his mate from Free, who died in 1976, the year after this released. So he must have seen him in the throes of the heroin addiction, which he'd had since Free. So I think there's definitely a link there, but that's what it's about, really. Yes, they used the same unit to record as Physical Graffiti, as Led Zeppelin did, but it has, again, this is kind of like a ballad, isn't it? It's another ballad. Shooting Star starts off with an acoustic and electric playing the opening riff, playing together. So again, you've got that more production thing with the 2 guitars rather than one. Drums and bass, and you've got the and it's a kind of slow, and it builds. It's got really nice driven guitar parts in it. The verse is just acoustic, with bass and drums. So you've got the contrast when Ralph comes in. You've got a change of key. You've got harmony singing in the chorus. They do harmony, 2 harmony voices. Change of key for the guitar solo, and then back to the acoustic for the verse 4, and then you've got a chorus with driven guitar and solo guitar at the end, and the sort of the scat singing, na 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 singing, and 3-part harmonies to the fade out at the end. Again, Rodgers, great singing on this. You can't get past it. He tells the story really well, sings it fantastically. 10 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. One of their classic tracks for sure. Jim.
Yeah, couldn't disagree. Great track. One of the best on the album. I think this would appeal. This probably appeals to people that wouldn't normally listen to kind of a rock band. It would have a kind of universal appeal. Great song, great structure, great singing. The lyrics are good. They kind of hook you in. Johnny was a schoolboy when he heard his first Beatles song, "Love Me Do," and it takes you to a kind of place, and it tells a story that is. It's the 27 Club, isn't it? All these great, talented musicians who kind of lost their way, and there wasn't kind of anyone there to really spot the signs. There was no kind of help in those days. Nowadays, people would have been put into rehab and kind of looked after a bit better, but back in those days, they kind of sank or swam, really. So, kind of sad that a lot of talent kind of was lost. I think this song is well sung. I think it probably helped Bad Company reach a bigger audience. It would pull people in and get them to listen to some of the other stuff as well. So, yeah, never a skip from me. 10 out of 10, full marks.
It's primo grande, isn't it? It's the ultimate obituary to the 27 Club and the casualties of the rock and roll lifestyle. It's a clever song by Paul Rodgers. The lyrics, again, this English guy, as Jim said, just reading out those lyrics, we all experienced similar sensations and impressions ourselves when we listened to our first rock and roll albums. And, we were all going to be stars in our own minds back then. And I certainly was one of those guys. And I loved that song when I heard it, Simon and Jim, because it was a song speaking to me, not about the tragedy of rock and roll, but about the light, the sunshine, the freedom that rock and roll could give. And because I was only a young cat back then, so and then realised a little bit later on when I meditated, thought about the lyrics. But those opening lines certainly paint a great future of what rock and roll can do for a band, for an individual. And because of that, I've got to Brad score this. It's one of the greatest rock and roll songs ever. It's played on classic rock here 3 or 4 times a week on the radio station I listen to, and deservedly so.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we've reached the end of side 1. Should we do photographs? I think
sure. Hey,
do photographs.
John ZD351. Happy Easter, brother. Easter. Good to see you. Enjoying your posts on Facebook. He's been busy gigging.
Yes, getting out and seeing some people. Fantastic, yeah.
All right, guys, give me a second there. So that is, if you give me a second there, so you can see that handsome guy. There's Boz, Mick. There he is there. The singer, Paul. And
Simon's in rock. There we are.
Mr. Kirk. Production. What is it? This is a publicity photo that they took. Now, this is, I understand this is a year after this album came out, but just give you a bit of an idea of the vibrancy that the band had, the closeness, the interconnection that these bands had. It's a theme that we discover in a lot of smaller, intimate stages that these guys had back then. They liked the idea that they were close to each other.
Flared trousers and platform shoes.
See,
oh my gosh, I love them. Look at that. That is just so cool.
That may be a good look for a rock star, but you can't play football in them in the playground. It's not going to
work. There he is there. Just a little fellow, but boy, could he sing. Or can he sing?
Yes, still going, yes.
The jeans the leather trousers that Jim's talking about.
Trousers. Yes.
So he's spent some royalty checks there. He's gone from denim to leather.
At least they're not red.
Yeah. And look at that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Classic early 70s look. Yeah. In fact, that is a classic 70s look, isn't it, Jim? With the waistcoat.
Yeah.
The flare jeans and the platforms. Come on. There's nothing cooler than that in 1973, was there?
Well, so none of us could aspire to what Paul Rodgers was wearing, because he's obviously got a white silk suit on there. So he's just done sartorial elegance there. He's got the big check. But most of us in the 70s had no money, and we couldn't even look as good as Mick Ralph's there. So, but we could do the denim. We could do the denim for sure.
Morning, Johnny. How you doing?
Mick's playing a Stratocaster there, and then in the corner there, if you got a keen eye, you can see his 58 Stratocaster. Sorry, Les Paul. Got some more pics on that. There he is there. The whole album, 90% of the album, I understand, is with his 58.
Yeah, but always a Les Paul into Marshalls or something, or...
There he is there.
Yeah.
Looking cool.
And when he's playing on stage, this is a thing with a lot of these guys. Nowadays, a lot of people have the kind of rhythm guitarist, a couple of guitarists backing them up. Back in the day, these guys had the confidence to go in and do it all on stage and, play all the parts and, find ways to cover up for what they couldn't do in the studio, just, in terms of a stage performance. So, it shows the caliber of the player, isn't it? Sort of fearlessness to go out there and be able to kind of hold the whole thing down. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
In 2017, he was honoured with Gibson Custom Shop. They grabbed the 58 that he had and did that. there's a couple of YouTube clips there with his son talking about it, because not long after they released this guitar, Gibson, he was in hospital recuperating from the stroke that he had. So, but these copies fetch thousands and thousands of dollars. So if anyone's got one, wants to come on and show it, please give us a yell.
Anyone got one?
And there's Paul enjoying a beer, probably after a gig.
Slightly the worse for wear, can we say?
And Mick graced a cover of Guitar Player a couple of times, but this is one back in, I think, 77. So, you know, played a Strat quite a lot later on as well, and a little bit earlier as well, but certainly a Guitar Player known, in my opinion anyway, in my mind, for playing a Gibson.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, all his classic stuff is all done on a Gibson, isn't it? It's
yeah,
I'm sure.
So thanks for letting me show those pics, guys.
Yeah, very cool. Give you an idea of rock in the early 70s, mid 70s. Which is oh dear. So, I think Johnny's got the lurgy. Mr. Bean's got the lurgy. Get well soon, Johnny. Hope you feel better, mate. So, side two. Side two. Starting off with a song called "Deal with the Preacher," which is a Mick Ralphs Rogers song together. So you've got a guitar riff at the beginning, reminding you very much of that Stones kind of stop-start riff under the singing, that kind of thing that the Stones have made their own. But an interesting kind of, you know, not a style that he's played before, Mick Ralphs. There's a second guitar on it that plays lead lines while the chorus is going on, the verse rather is going on, and you've got in the chorus you've got the singing and guitar call and response thing, and you've got a drop down, and you've got a middle eight with different chords with a Leslie guitar. I think he's putting his guitar to a Leslie. You can hear the spinning speaker, and then back in with classic power chords, guitar solo over a different descending riff. Again, you know, production and organization to the fore. You know, they thought about the arrangement of the song. Verse 3 comes back with the stop-start riff, but with a guitar in the background also playing. Then you've got a sort of middle 8 version 2 with a different riff and phased guitars, and then at the end you've got sort of kind of scat singing over big chords. So interesting song, as I say. You know, very much more of an arrangement, different things going on at different points in the songs for keep your interest and keep things going. It's an 8 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Strong opener.
Awesome.
And, Jim.
Can I just interrupt, Jim? Sorry, I just want to do a special shout out to Johnny Bean. Are you still in the chat, Johnny? If you are, say yes, and I'll just want to say something directly to you. But Jim, if you want to give your score, please. Sorry to interrupt.
No trouble at all. I think I'd give this a 9 out of 10 as a score. I like it. I think it's an ideal way to kick off side 2. Another kind of rocker, similar to the start on side 1. It picks up from the kind of couple of ballads that have gone before, 3. So I think it needs a bit of a kind of boost of energy just to come in. Not that there's not energy in the other ones, but this just a nice flat out rock and roll song to start the thing. I think the guitar riff is great actually, and I've never heard. I didn't hear anything like that, particularly in Free. So it does feel like something that he's kind of brought in here. Kind of reminds me a little bit of some of the stuff the Foo Fighters do now. You know, that kind of. I don't know if that's a fair comment or not, but I like it. And when I hear it, when I heard this a few years ago, and I thought, I guess that side 1's very, very popular, and I can see a lot of people getting to the end of side one and going straight back to track one again and going through it. It might have been a little while before you got to track two, but I think this would have made a great single, but in those days, I think it was very much a couple off an album. Nowadays, companies would be pushing to get everything off it. But for me, it's that quality that it could have stood out on its own, outside the confines of the album. So 9 out of 10 for me, never a skip, love it.
Fair enough.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm reading my notes here, and Deal with the Preacher could have been my opening pick for the album, Jim. I wouldn't have had a problem with it opening the album. I love the grittiness that the song offers us. I'm glad the Rock Professor mentioned, again, Mick's contribution to this album, and certainly to the song. It's a standout. I didn't know anything about it at the time. I just thought it was just fantastic. Certainly a sleeper, bit of a sleeper song. It's I spoke to a couple of people over the last couple of days if they were familiar with it. No, and these are rock and roll nuts, so an interesting song. I love it. I found myself listening to it a couple of times in a row, because I was just trying to crack into what it was offering. But love the grittiness. The Rock Professor's right there about that Stones connection. I love it. That Faces, that whole tone, that whole thing that was happening around then, that they were borrowing off each other. Was allowed because it was popular music back then, Simon. So the fact that they were sort of within the ballpark with a couple of these songs is understandable. Look, I'm going to give this a solid 9, and could quite easily have opened the album for me. Love it, never a skip.
I think I've underscored it a bit.
Little Bird loves the song more than Shooting Star, actually. Wow. Wow.
Well,
yeah,
that's I mean, I agree. I think was it yeah, Robert Ranford said that the track follows Shooting Star is a tough act to follow. I think I'm in with that, Robert, that somehow that's such a great song, Shooting Star, that anything that comes after it is going to have a problem.
It's a bugger, isn't it? Isn't it a bugger?
Another point. But I know it is. Yes, I know. Yeah. What do I follow it with? Always a difficulty with any band, isn't it? With that. But tell me, I mean, I agree. It's a strong opener to side two. I'm not saying it's not, but I think that and it's it's not that it's not interesting. I just don't think it's got quite that memorable thing about it that takes it to a 10 for me. But it's I'll go 8.5. 8.94. It's how many points after the decimal points can you actually do? But I agree. I mean, I think that this side has lots of interesting songs, and them trying different things and doing things. So even though maybe I don't score them as highly, it doesn't mean I don't think they're of interest, and I don't think they're worthy of they're not really good songs, and they're not really well arranged and really well organized. So that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. So the next track is Wildfire Woman, which is again a Rodgers and Ralph's composition. This is a bit more of a sort of funky thing. So clearly they're doing slightly different musical styles on side two. There's kind of funky riff over a straightforward beat, and the verse has the guitar riff under it. It's got an ascending guitar riff over Rodgers singing "Come On Boys." It's slightly different. Again, the arrangement, they clearly put different bits in. Interest. You've got a chorus with different chords and an organ, which I guess is Mick Ralph's playing. And then you've got later on in the next chorus, you've got an ascending guitar riff again and a slide guitar solo this time, but a slide going on. So clearly, again, slide is another dynamics thing, isn't it? It gives you a different dynamic, a different, if you haven't got loads of pedals, you've got volumes, tones, slide, and other things to do with your guitar. And there's a kind of scat singing, Roger scat singing at the end. At the end. again, another 8.5 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. I think it's a really good. I like it a lot. I think it's got much to do it, and not quite possibly the strength of the side one. But that's not to say it's not a good song, because it is a good song, well arranged, great, really great playing, and great singing as well. And again, having that slide stuff on is another point of interest, something new. Jim.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Derek Clacton makes a great point there in the chat, that if at the time this was released, that you get that pause after Shooting Star, you turn over the record or you flip over your cassette, there's just a little bit of time before you go into the next side. And I think then the Deal with the Preacher does have quite a lot of impact after that kind of thing, probably on a CD where it just goes straight in. It invites the comparison a bit more. I think the Wildfire Woman does follow nicely on from Deal with the Preacher. I like it. I think there's lots of interesting things to hear in it. I think the singing is really, really strong, and the guitar playing, it's well put together. It's a band that's not just resting on their laurels. They're not just throwing in. It doesn't feel like a filler track to me. It feels like a song that's got, it could stand up. You wouldn't feel bad about hearing different versions of that and stuff. So I like it, and I think probably give it about 8.5 out of 10 for me. It's not as strong as some of the others, but it is a good song. So 8.5 out of 10. That's me.
Look, I agree with you guys too. It's again another solid sleeper, great rocker. It's a song that I used to skip a lot early on, but when I got more into understanding what rock and roll was about, started listening to it a little bit more. I think it's Bad Company, heavily influenced, and shoot me if you guys think that my connection is wrong. But it's heavily influenced by Exile on Main Street, where the Stones are using a lot of slide going. They've got a lot of songs on that album, and I think this is, and that reverb, something going on with Paul's voice too. It's they're trying to do something, and Jim is right. This is a band that's working, that's presenting something, giving the listeners something. It's a serious statement by a band of where they can go, even though they're trying to, connect elements of what was existing around that time, which is pretty much what I said for the previous song. But these connections and interconnectednesses are really important, and for that, I'm going to give them an 8.5 too. Maybe even a 9. But it's a solid song.
Yeah, solid song. Yeah. I think as I've said a few times, I think that branching out, is understanding that you can't just do the first album again and just have that straight kind of 4-piece thing.
Good point.
You've got to do something else. You've got to move it along, and the fact that you can put electric pianos and organs and piano and acoustic guitars and have more arrangements in the songs, I think is really good and really enhances these songs and adds to their appeal, makes them better. So it's I think it would be if they'd done all these as just plain songs, that I don't think it would have worked nearly so well myself.
And Paul liked the song too. He's proud of the song.
Yeah, which is always good. So I think that it's interesting, that Stones thing. I don't think of Mick Ralphs as being sort of in the Stones thing at all. But clearly there's some influences there from his fellow guitar players. But, anyway, moving on to track 7, which is Anna, which is another Simon Kirke song. This, as I've just mentioned, has a kind of electric piano, bass and drums start. And Rogers hums over. I thought he was going to go into Little Help from My Friends at the beginning. It had that same kind of electric piano vibe to it that has at the beginning, with not quite the what's he, Joe Cocker sort of thing, but it's got a verse over electric piano. So this is kind of electric piano and guitar chords. It's got what are you doing, Mr. Walton? Are you listening to this? You got just reminding yourself. That's a good idea. It has brilliantly. It has a different melody on the last line of the chorus each time, which is really good. You know, he sings it, does it differently. Really soulful singing by Paul Rodgers, and again, that third line has a harmony to it. You know, just sparingly, but just becomes a highlight. You know, a little piece of color that they put in. You've got a melodic guitar in the background playing anything, and then you've got a chorus and then a coda with a call and response on the first line, and a kind of descending run down to the end. So, so it's for me 7.5 out of 10. Never a skip. It's not a skip. I like it as a song, but I think it's a bit slighter than some of the other ones. So 7.5 from me. Jim.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to be horrible here. I think this is a song that should have stayed on the fridge and made it onto the record. I think I really don't like it. I think it's filler. It's horrible to say it, but I was thinking about this yesterday, and I thought my score, I would give it a 2, and then I thought I can't be that generous to this song. I just can't be that generous. So this would be a 0 from me. I think the record would be stronger without it. I don't think it adds anything. I don't like it, and it would always be a skip. I don't know. We've had that thing. Always a skip from me. So
wow.
We have.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Have to be honest.
No. Your honesty is appreciated, because that's exactly my sentiments too. And Derek is saying the same thing here, because I'm reading my notes here, and I was just listening to it again for a second. The song meanders into nowhere. That's and I've ranked it as a 3, and probably a skip. And that's the lowest ranking I've given. For you, Jim, to give it a 0 is it's fine. I never liked the song. It meanders to nowhere. And interesting enough, it's the second to last song on side 2, and the Rock Professor's got a theory there.
Yeah, my theory is that bands always put the weakest song, the track before last, on side 2. Yeah. So this fits it.
But no, top marks for being honest, Jim, because that's what we do here on the British Electric Blues ranking the tracks. It's about giving, and sometimes we've upset other co-hosts, but sometimes you got to be courageous. You got to be a crusader and fight for the truth. Yeah. Rock Professor.
Yeah, clearly. I didn't feel like I would skip it. I thought it was okay as a song, kind of, as you said, man, it's quite pleasant. I don't think I'd skip, I'm not a great, my trouble is I'm not a great one for skipping things unless it's desperate. I mean, in the old days, we said earlier, to be able to get up and go, move the arm and put it down again.
Helene likes it.
So, all right. Yeah. Okay, well, it's each to everyone. I'd be quite, the even crueler thing I'd said was, I think the lyrics, I found myself a simple woman. Well, she'd have to be to go along with you.
The lyrics are corny.
He's a drummer.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
He's a drummer, Jim.
I know.
Cheers, Robert. Thanks for hanging out with us, Robert.
He's a really good drummer. Let's be positive.
Yes, absolutely, yes. Oh well, there we are. You see, slight divergence there. I'm not going to nuke it. Jim, as the producer, will be saying, "Get back in there and do a better one."
Cheers, Robert. Thanks for hanging out with us, brother.
Thanks. Robert.
Last song, side 2.
Last song. See, no album was ever improved by having 14 tracks instead of 8. Just saying. The perfect, 4 tracks aside, 20 minutes aside, perfect. Yeah. So this last track is "Call on Me," which is a Paul Rodgers song. The intro has a Leslie guitar, bass and drums. That's different chords for the verse. The verse has 3 parts. The first 2 lines, "Call on Me," and then the last line as well. So it's interesting. Again, the arrangement, they've thought about the arrangement of the singing, how Paul Rodgers is going to sing it. and what he's going to do on each of the lines. Electric piano in it as well. One likes a bit of electric piano. Again, they have the next Call on Me has two voices and a different melody that he sings. You've got the verse 2, and then you've got the guitar feedback over the keys that he holds, which is really good. Really like that guitar feedback thing that he holds for a long time. It's really cool. Really, just a single note, but says a lot. That's really nice. He's got really nice solo, melodic, gentle solo over it. Great singing from Rogers. I think it's really good. Again, you've got a last verse, and then you've got a middle 8 with a sort of low guitar solo starting off under the piano, bass, and drums, and then it kind of ascends into the high bit of the solo. A really good solo, really good melodic, thought about solo, clearly worked out and organised. I really like this song. I think it's really great. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10, and I'm never skipping it. Oh, Mr. Walton's shaking his head. What? I should have given it 1,000 or 1. Oh, look at that! We got the Roman Emperor to thumbs down. Well, I liked it. So there, Jim, you can shoot me down.
No. I think it's okay. I think it's okay. I think it's obviously, a big step up from what went before with Anna. I think they were trying to do some things here differently. Whether entirely it works, I'm not entirely sure. But I was listening to it yesterday, and I thought, yeah, it's all right, it's okay. I probably would have liked something a little different. I'm not quite sure, but a little undecided here. A 7 for me out of 10. Yeah.
And Derek agrees with you too. Look, it's a heartbeat better than Anna for me. It's at least the song Anna meandered to nowhere. At least the song ends up somewhere. Which is a credit to the band. Look, I get your point, Jim, about they were trying to do something here. The elements that went through that they managed to do. Hold on, guys. Let me just get to my notes, please, because I got to pick the right song. The elements that they did. That they got together with Firewoman, for example, and Deal with the Preacher was sadly missing on this last song. I'm going to agree with what Derek's saying here. A low key ending to a great album. I would have loved to have seen, a rocker, something. I would have loved to have seen them bookmark this with something, that they've opened the two sides up with. I thought about maybe juggling a couple of songs, and putting this song somewhere to make it better. But I can't see where I would do that either, Simon. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 too. Sometimes a skip. But I'd be happy though, Rock Professor, to play side 2 after side 1 if you're at a party, because I think at least side 2 is going to appeal to, if not the rockers, to some of the people that don't like rock, and maybe some of the girls, So,
I think it might have been better if it was a little shorter. I think it doesn't. 6 minutes is maybe just overstaying its welcome a little.
Yeah. I was going to say that, Jim. I think it could definitely benefit from being 4 minutes rather than 6. As a, I think it's 2. Needs a bit of axing, but it's something you did in 1973, isn't it? It could have a bit of a coda. People are not going too long, stuff like that. Well, that was interesting. I agree with you about that. What you actually, a nice rocker to end it would have been really cool, for sure. And I think that side 2 is definitely not as strong as side 1. By a distance. It's,
side 1's a masterpiece.
Side 1. Side 1, they're absolutely excellent. But I can see that side 2 is more of a, what you might call deep cuts and.
So having said that, though, would I consider this album a masterpiece? I'm going to say no. Is it a great classic rock album? Clearly, but in my mind, for classifications for a masterpiece, there would have needed to have been at least 3 or 4 great songs on side 2 to put into that category. Simon and Jim, what do you guys think?
I agree. I think it's an album that is of interest. If people haven't heard it, go and listen to it. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I chose it. Is that it's got side one has got songs that you would know, but it's worth digging into, worth listening to. Worth. Absolutely worth it. And I'm always interested in what people did a bit more.
Little Bird, be prepared to be knocked off your chair when you go and listen to Supernatural. Go and listen to it on this album there. It's on A Hard Road. John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. Go and listen to it and be prepared for... Yeah,
it's a great
song. The Supernatural's great. That album's brilliant, isn't it? That A Hard Road, fantastic. I was just one thing on Bad Company. I think that if the first 2 albums had been put together as a double album, it would have been a classic. It could have been a classic, an absolute classic masterpiece. Because I think you could have taken some songs, from each of those and just made it a little bit stronger. You'd have probably lost something too, but just a thought.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I think that it's that. In a sense, probably there are 3 great sides of Bad Company, and one,
Hey, crappy.
This is the side that kind of that is them trying to broaden out, branch out, do different things, add some things into their sound and stuff like that, which I think is definitely the right thing to do. And whether the songs quite hold up to that, I think you're right, they probably don't. But but if you're recording something 3 months after your first album, maybe you're when you get to side 2 of that second album, you are maybe doing a bit of the B-roll songs rather than the A-star stuff, because you've used them up clearly, because you want to come in with a bang, don't you? But no, I think it's a really good. I think it's a really good album. I think a really good. I think it's quite representative of its time as well. That that side 2 of it, looking at broadening out. The sound and the way they do things. I think it's
Yeah, I mean, this is just on the horizon. We had the whole punk rock thing coming, didn't we? And the new wave movement. So this was kind of going towards kind of the end of a little era in the UK. The music industry took a big shift, a couple of years down the line from this. So these bands were then going to try to find a different place in the world. But interesting stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's for me. That's the half the point of what we do here is that it's not. We could take the classics, sure. Physical Graffiti, fantastic. But also the taking of slightly more interesting albums that maybe not as good as that, but I think worthy of going back and having a listen, with a bit of hindsight. And
absolutely,
cool.
Absolutely. It's you got to listen to this album. It's a great album. It's it's a rock and roll killer. Yeah, I love it, Simon. Especially as we've said, side 1 especially. And you got to remember that a couple of those songs weren't, as I said at the introduction, they weren't classic rock songs. Up until the mid 80s, there was no such thing as classic rock then. It was just still rock and roll. So, Paul Rodgers especially went on and did some great things, didn't he? Maintained the momentum as a great British rock and roll singer, vocalist.
He did an album of the Royal Sessions, which was pretty spectacular, covering kind of Otis Redding songs and stuff. And his singing on that is superb. His album with mixed views on the Muddy Waters cover album he did of Muddy Waters songs. With loads of different guitar players on that. Kind of very good to listen to. I think interesting how these albums though I think Bad Company albums demonstrate what a great guitar player Mick Ralphs was. And I remember reading, I've still got it actually, the Ian Hunter's Diary of a Rock and Roll Star. And you got the whole thing there about Mick Ralphs and the thing he hated flying and all the hard job for him to get to an airport and get on a plane. And some nice stories about always going to the secondhand guitar stores in the States and picking up guitars and bringing them back and selling them for more money over here. But yeah, it's a real kind of rock and roll life and underrated guitar player.
Awesome. Little Bird, hit that subscribe button because we come back here. We do weekly album rankings. So if you enjoyed this show, I'm sure you'll enjoy a few more that we've got planned. And if you subscribe, go back and have a look at our playlist because there's some great albums that we've had the pleasure of presenting and ranking. Love to hear what you think of those shows in the comments.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Good. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed that, guys. It's as I say, going back and listening to albums that I haven't, really, heard for a long time and stuff like that. I always think it's really interesting to dig into them.
That's what we do. So we're not going to rank next week, guys, any albums. So there's no homework for anybody. Instead, we're going to get together and we're going to talk about rock and roll. We're going to talk about bits and pieces, guitars. We're going to be talking about 1,000 channels, 1,000 subscribers for the channel. I just checked before, Simon, we're 1,173. So we're still climbing. Thank you very much, everybody. Everybody and Little Bird will subscribe back because everybody that subscribes to our channel gets a automatic sub back. But thank you, everybody, for sharing our channel on your social media accounts. I know who you are. Alan especially, thank you for all the hard work that you've been doing for us too. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Yes, lots of people to thank.
If you guys want to hang out with Simon and I and Brad next week, come on for 10, 15, 20 minutes or just sit here. We can have up to 6. I think we can have 6 or 7 hosts, people here. So if you want to come on and hang out and be part of the fun, I'll include a StreamYard's link on the chat. So you guys just hit that and you can jump in.
Yes, please do come on so that we can say thank you. It'd be great to have,
The first 10 people that come on too will give you moderator wrenches. So the first 10 people that are in the chat, we're going to give out some moderator wrenches so you can say, we were there when they hit 1,000. Thank you.
Cool. Right.
Jim,
stick around. We're talking the green room.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim, for filling in the hot seat. You've done a wonderful job. Thank you. You've offered a dynamic, and I'm sure everybody in the chat has appreciated your contribution. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
Rock Very Professor, cool. You want to say goodbye to everybody?
Let's say goodbye to everyone. So, Helene, Teresa, Derek, Gret Zeppelin, Crappy, Luxury, Little Bird. Welcome, Little Bird. That's fantastic. Hold it further away. Small screens. We'll see. It's ageist small screens, aren't they? Not designed. Ellen as well. Ellen Vorstein. Thanks, Ellen. Lots from Derek today. Thanks for your contributions, Derek. Robert Ranford as well. Johnny Bean. Awesome. Yeah, guys are really cool, really good. Tim Thomas as well. Tim, thank you, Tim. Hope I haven't missed anybody so far. Shout if I have. Arvin, of course, Arvin. Thanks, Arvin. Long-time supporter. And
been there right from the start.
Right from the start, yeah. Keith Campbell, of course. Sleep well, Keith. But thanks for joining. It's really good to see you. All well.
Crappy Luxury.
Crappy Luxury, yeah. Crappy, thanks, Crappy. Good to see you.
Crappy, we are organising Shrine. When we do Shrine, you're coming on.
Oh, look at that. Well done. Helena. Paulie Walnuts as well near the top. Thank you, Paulie, for dropping by. Hopefully, I've got everybody. I've got to the top of my list right at the back at the beginning. So thanks all, Tim Thomas as well. Thanks everyone for joining yet again, and
No
thanks for getting us over the 1,000 subs. Really fantastic. We are very pleased to have done that. So thank you ever so much for that. And
Brad,
we'll see you next week. Come on.
Brad, if you're watching, thanks, brother. Enjoy your holiday. See you next week.
Yeah, have a lovely time. Take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye, kids. Stay safe and well.